Vince, thanks for coming on The Talking Room.
Thank you. It's just great to be here.
How is life for you after Breaking Bad? Do you feel like you've taken a giant breath?
Yeah, you know, yeah, I mean, it just, I was about to say, I feel like I've taken a giant dump and stuff. That's what it feels like, you know, not to be crude, but it's like, oh my God, you know how you, and then you're like, oh man.
I mean, you obviously must have your own catharsis with it.
I was so worried for so long that it would not end well, or that it would not be satisfying to viewers, and it seems by and large that it was.
Universally.
It was such a huge relief. It was such a huge weight off. Hence my strange analogy. By the way, funny fact: the room we're in right now. We're in Grand Via Productions, which is Mark Johnson's company. My producer, Melissa Bernstein, and I sat at this very table about 7 years ago and met with Bryan Cranston for the first time.
Wow.
He was sitting, I think, over that way, and we were over on this side.
You didn't meet him when he was in your X-Files?
I mean, I had met him,
okay.
but the first official meeting at which we said to him, we would love you for this part of Walter White. We would love for that to be the case, and for you to agree to that. That happened right here at this table.
I'm sure some of your stuff you're getting maybe from research with law enforcement, but are you finding any copycats to the stuff that you guys have done? Is anyone dyeing their meth blue?
Apparently so. Apparently. Now, to be fair, I thought that this came about purely because of Breaking Bad, and then I was cleaning out my office when the lease ran out on our offices, and we got out of there, and I'm looking through old stuff. I had old newspaper clippings and stuff I hadn't looked at in 8 or 9 years, and I found something about colored meth, and this was before we came up with our blue meth. It's one of those things, maybe you read it and then it sublimates or whatever, it goes into your subconscious. But having said that, there apparently has been a slew of new blue meth inspired by the show, which, I got to be honest, is one of those things, on the one hand, you're like, man, I'm glad people are watching. But even meth producers, you know, but on the other hand, you're like, oh, Jesus. It's like, ugh.
I was continually surprised by the elegance of things, like even down to, it totally makes sense Jesse would grab something in his house like a bike lock to lock up Crazy 8. But the idea that the simplicity of it is also part of how humiliating it is, and that it also allows Walt to kill him without looking at him in the face. That it gives Walt some distance for that first kill. I was like, that's so, it wraps up so nicely. Good. I mean, do you guys sit around like throwing things into the wastebasket and thinking, no, it has to be neater, or it has to be tighter?
At the risk of looking less on top of things, I find it's good to just be honest and say that, for instance, the motorcycle lock, which I love too, when we came up with it, would not have been, except for the fact that in the pilot, during which I was directing and I was running for my life, and and certain details, you know, I just probably just passed right over me. My production designer, who was doing his job, a wonderful guy named Rob Wilson King, knew we were going to be shooting in Jesse's garage in the pilot, and he said, what can I put in this garage? What would a young guy that looks like this kid have in his garage? I think he'd have a motorcycle, and put the lock on it, and it was just there as set dressing. And I had not, and my whole point of this long story being, I hadn't gone to him and said, by the way, Jesse, we're going to use a motorcycle in the future, we're going to have him ride it, you know, none of that. I showed up on the day, and he said, how's the garage look, boss? It's good. Yeah, okay, no, you know. What I'm proud of on the show, my point being, I love it when people think we played a very deep game. And sometimes we played a pretty deep game, but the thing that we mostly did was look back at the tools we had at hand and the options we had at hand and said, oh, let's make use of this.
I had some questions about references. I felt like sometimes you were referencing other films, and I specifically was wondering, when Walt runs into the other cook in the hardware store.
Okay, yeah.
And he says, he gives him advice, and the guy runs out scared, and then Walt walks out and says, stay out of my territory. Yeah. I felt like I was watching, in micro, Walt's whole transformation there, from the noticing the thing all the way, and I thought of Michael Corleone in the famous pushing in Godfather. Are you?
Always we're thinking of the Godfather. Steal from the best. Steal from anyone, steal from the Godfather parts 1 and 2. maybe not so much 3, but 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Just those are as good as 2 movies ever have been or ever will be.
I will tell you that immediately after Skylar reveals the money in the storage space,
right,
shows Walt, I actually freeze framed it, counted, and came to my own estimation because I was sure.
You're the kind of person we made this show for. Absolutely true. Absolutely.
I came high. I came to a spread of between $40 and $90 million, depending on how many 20 stacks.
All right.
If you split it evenly, if it's all 50s and 100s, that's 90 million.
Okay.
If it's 50s, 100s, and 20s, then it's more like
there's
60
some 20s
or something
in there.
like
yeah.
that.
The number Mark Hansen, our prop master, gave me, and it was his best guesstimate. He guessed 80 million.
I also wanted to talk about Brian's amazing ability to bring slapstick to the tensest moments.
Yeah.
I mean, I was finding myself wondering, is he getting tired of you guys filming his naked ass? Or his in those tighty whitey underpants?
I don't think he did. I didn't want to abuse the privilege. He's a very courageous actor. He is courageous about being naked emotionally. He's courageous about being naked physically. I'd never wanted to abuse the privilege, and I certainly didn't want it to turn into a joke.
Towards the end, there's a shot where Holly, the baby, is sleeping and moving her hand.
Yeah.
And I found myself wondering, how did you do that?
It was pneumatic air hoses run to a...
oh, really?
No, I'm just kidding.
I was totally ready to believe it.
No, this is just this adorable little baby named Baby Mo. In that moment, the baby was just dead asleep. And the mom comes in, and everyone, this entire crew of people with their heavy tool belts on and their hammers and their this and that, and everyone's just, it's wonderfully sedate and quiet and silent, and the mom comes in and lays the baby down, and we had talked outside, and then we're just communicating with hand signals, and the camera operator, Andy Vogelai, comes in, the camera operator, and we'd already talked through what he was going to get, and I'm like, you know, and Brian comes over, and Brian in that moment had told himself, he said to me, is it okay if I don't cry here? I don't think there's any more tears. Walt's cried all the tears. And I said, I agree. And nonetheless, he told me later, he said, I wasn't going to cry, but I did anyway. I wasn't bawling. He wasn't bawling, just a single tear. Sort of Iron Eyes Cody style comes up. And then the same thing happens with Anna. And they weren't putting it on thick. Just, it was so moving. And Andy, our camera operator, he's got this 35-pound Aeroflex shot film.
Yeah.
You know, and he's leaning over this baby, this crib, and the little baby's there, and she's going like this. That was all her. She was just having REM sleep or a dream or something. And everyone is just so touched by this. Andy starts crying. I mean, silently, but literally, he's like, with his eyepiece, and the tears are coming down his face.
Did you ever find, I mean, this must have happened, in the writer's room, you're trying to solve a problem dramatically, and the final solution that you come up with ends up being something where the character does something you didn't expect they would do, like they surprise you?
Yeah. The biggest single surprise Walter White ever gave me was in episode 4 of the first season, when he gets offered, in Deus Ex Machina fashion, he gets offered a way out to all of his problems. He goes to a birthday party where we meet his old friends, Gretchen and Elliot Schwartz, who are now Fortune 500 or Forbes, whatever. They're rich people. And they used to work with him, and in that first episode, they seem to love him, and he seems a little ill at ease, but he seems to, it's good to catch up with him, and they say to him, we've heard about your cancer. Please, let us help. If there's anything, we're going to pay for we're going to get you the finest doctors in Europe, whatever. If it's humanly possible, we're going to make it right. We're going to make you well. By the way, and we want you to come work for us. We're going to give you a job. You're going to make 10 times the money you make now. You can have your own whatever. There's no earthly reason he should turn it down.
Right.
Not even as a point of pride or whatever. If you really want to provide for your family, you swallow your pride and you take this amazing deal. And instead, because of pride, because of ego, he goes back to cooking meth, and he turns them down. That was the thing that surprised me the most about our own character. There had to be some fundamental thing about this guy. It got really interesting when we realized he wasn't really doing it for his family.
I can't see a better place to stop. Vince, thank you so much.
Thank
really.
you. Thank you, Adam. This was fun, man.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We love Vince Gilligan and Breaking Bad here on Cinefix. To see the full, uncut, hour-long interview, go to Tested. You can just click on this link below, and that'll take you right there. Lots more good stuff there as well. As always, come back to Cinefix, and we'll have more of these interviews for you soon.